All right, we're going to call the meeting to order. So, quick introduction. So, in the middle is Vince Nobbett. He is our appointee for the town council. Hayden Flynn is on the left, Speedway resident, and Bob Staton, Speedway resident, are board members. So, this is a three-member board. We've met off and on for the past 3 or 4 years. I've been here for 5, discussing this project, discussing the fee, the capital improvement plan, all different parts of that in the various board meetings that we have had. So tonight is an advertised public hearing. We do have an agenda prepared. It is on the back of the table if anyone wanted to view that. So the first thing that we need to do is just appoint a president, vice president, and recording secretary. So I'll let you guys either appoint or arm wrestle or do whatever you wish to do.
I nominate Vince Nobbett for president.
Second.
Okay, all in favor of that? Say aye. Aye. Okay. So we'll need a motion for vice.
I'll make a motion that Robert Staton be a vice president.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. And then for recording secretary, we'll need a motion.
I'll make a motion that Hayden Flynn be the recording secretary. Wait a second.
Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, so that'll be reflected in the minutes. Vince, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna discuss the stormwater fee. We do have Matt from Christopher B. Burke in the audience. We're not gonna necessarily do any big presentation. There's a lot of information on the website, including a PowerPoint that was put together by CBB that was discussed with the council at the first meeting on December the 8th. So, stormwater fee, what is a stormwater fee? A stormwater fee is nothing more than a fee on every parcel within the town that is collected by the town to then fund stormwater activities. Stormwater activities include getting rainwater and accumulated rainwater out of the community to avoid flooding, damage to private property, damage to things like levees and other infrastructure or drainage ditches. Over the years, the town of Speedway has done a lot of projects, including, I'll just name a couple, the Dry Run Ditch Diversion Project on the north side, north of the Coca-Cola plant. That was done to control flooding and to direct stormwater away from a majority of the houses, I'm going to say north of Crawfordsville Road, basically. We also have done storm sewer and sanitary sewer separation over the past decade or two. We're at about 95% separation currently, which means your downspouts, when it rains, don't drain into the wastewater system. They drain into the stormwater system, whether that's at the back of the property, in the front, whatever it is, to go into the street or into the infrastructure that has been installed. Those couple of projects actually allowed the town and our residents to get off the flood insurance through the federal government, probably saving a couple of $1,000s annually for those residents because a lot of them had issues, right? I know, Vince, you and I have talked about this. We've discussed these things in the past.
Right.
We had basements that flooded regularly. We had some basements that were so saturated they were beginning to give way or cave in. All of those problems came from not being able to get that stormwater out of the town. So every time it rains, we have to deal with that stormwater. The other thing that the town does is we do a lot of, through Rob's department, Rob Wetnight is our street commissioner, we deal with all of the stormwater intakes that are built into the roads that you drive on every day. You'll notice those about every 400 feet or so. That water drains off the street because it can't get through the street and go into the ground. It drains off the street, runs into those inlets, and then is piped away, typically to Dry Run Creek or Eagle Creek, to get that water out of town. So Rob and his crew spend probably 20 to 30% of their time annually inspecting, cleaning, repairing, removing grates, replacing grates, all of those kinds of activities. The other thing that they do is they run our street sweeper. Street sweeper has dual purpose. It's to make the streets look good. We don't want trash or debris or litter. That street sweeper is run, but also for another reason, it's to keep all of that from going into the stormwater system, which will go into the waterway and pollute the waterway and all of that other, but it also will plug that up, causing issues, and we don't want that to happen. So Rob's street department does a lot of that work. They have several pieces of equipment in addition to the to the street sweeper. And that street sweeper, I think, to replace it anymore nowadays is $300 to $350. We've had it for 10 or 12 years. We repair it, but that's going to be something that we're going to have to replace probably sooner rather than later in the next couple of years. The other thing that we have is called a Vector truck. It actually is purchased by the wastewater department and is used to clean out both stormwater lines and sanitary sewer lines when there are clogs or difficulties. That is also a very expensive piece of equipment. I think it's around $500,000.
That's $587,000.
587. And we actually just put an order in for a new one, and we've gotten 15 years plus out of the old one with routine maintenance and changing of stuff. We've had to rebuild the pump, I think, at least twice that I'm aware of. So those are examples of actual day-to-day activities that currently the town of Speedway collects no revenue for. We don't charge residents for that, we just do that. And I think for the past 20 to 25 years, we've been doing that using our other funds, whether they be general funds, street funds, water funds, or wastewater funds to pay those expenses. You know, when I brought this to the board and the council a couple of years ago, we commissioned a study which was put together to identify not just those daily operational costs, but the capital improvements that have to be done and maintained. You have before you a spreadsheet that is also in the report, which is on the stormwater page, if anyone is interested in reading that. But it identifies somewhere between $3 and $3.5 million of stormwater projects that need to be done or maintained or replaced. I'll give you a good example. We have what's called a BMP, Best Management Practice drain under the grass parking at IMS that collects a whole host of stormwater in underground tanks and then releases that intermittently into dry run ditch. That's a very expensive project that was done about a decade ago.
That's at 20th and Auburn.
Yeah, 20th and
Just to
Auburn.
the, on the IMS property. on the
That
north
needs
side.
routine maintenance. It needs replacement of the structures. I know that duck bill that literally opens and closes, that's got to be replaced and rebuilt over time. So this stormwater fee is intended for those kinds of things. The operational cost, including some staff time and equipment, and then those capital improvement projects. I think we put together a budget as a part of that study well in excess of $1.5 million needed annually. In discussions with the Stormwater Board and the council, we felt like we're going to try to make do with the $500,000 budget, which is currently reflected in the fee, and get those projects started. The maintenance, we're already doing that maintenance. Once again, I think the one thing I've been asked a lot over the past month is, why haven't you been doing maintenance? We've been doing maintenance. I just mentioned that. It's just we're not getting paid for that maintenance, and it's starting to become more and more difficult to do that. Yeah. All of our costs have gone up: fuel, vehicles, insurance, the pay of our employees. We've had to pay more to be more competitive because we have street employees and wastewater employees that will go to other communities that are paying. So to protect our system and ensure that it can run, we feel like this stormwater fee is necessary. So what is the fee? The fee it's a two-part fee. It's a residential fee, but it also is a commercial fee. 70% of the budget, the $500,000 budget, is being paid for by our local business community. That includes Allison, Lindy, IMS, Coca-Cola, Brixmore, apartment complexes, etc. All of those folks that discharge water into our system, through our system, are going to be paying for that, which includes residences as well. One of the things Christopher B. Burke did was look at an equivalent residential unit, an ERU, which is a simple calculation to determine how much property pushes how much water away, because when you have concrete, asphalt rooftops, Mother Nature can't accept the rain, it gets pushed off, and that's when flooding starts. So that ERU for a residence has a $1 administrative overhead charge fee, $2.77 for a total of $3.77 per month for residences. We have about, I think, 3,000 or 4,000 homes in the community. They will be paying that $3.77. It's a little over $42 annually. Businesses will pay a bit more. They also have an ERU, but they have larger properties, more dispersion of water. Some of them will pay $5, $6, $8, even up to $1,000 per month annually. And that's where that calculation of about 70% is being paid for by our commercial industries. So with that, I don't know if the board has any other questions for me about the stormwater fee.
No, I just want to let the public know too that a lot of work done by our street department, basically incurring those costs of keeping those waterways free, because we've got to basically clean 50 feet, 25 feet on each side of the right-of-way of those streams. And Rob's department does a great job of now and then working in to be in between patching holes and doing the regular street department and, removing snow, putting salt down, the whole 9 yards on that. But we got to make room and time, make sure we got the manpower to keep those waterways clear. And usually it's from 25th Street all the way into the track. And then as it comes out of the track between 1 and 2, goes all the way down into Little Eagle Creek. Because that whole dry run ditch removes a lot of water from the south side of our town. The other aspect is up south of 30th Street and Meadowood, and making sure that those waterways stay clear. And they usually drain to Eagle Creek through the shopping center and around there from that standpoint. And then they've got to be cleared from that standpoint.
I think that's a good point. There is a storm sewer system that drains a lot of the west side of the town.
Yeah.
That also needs maintenance and upkeep. In fact, we did a televising last year as part of the Crawfordsville Road project, and we know that that pipe, which is well over 40 years old, some of the bottom is starting to decay, right? And not even, so we lined a good portion of that basically from Cunningham, Parkwood, east to Coles. We lined that as a part of that project. That was, I think, $200,000 or $300,000 worth of lining that needed to be done, and that is not included in this budget.
Right. So a lot of those stormwater lines were neglected because, basically they're out of sight, out of mind. And then also the fact that we had to, basically the funds, you got to generate the funds in order to do that lining. Also, a lot of the manholes in Old Speedway basically have been recently lined, and basically we're trying to stop water penetration into our sewer lines and eliminate that from happening. We've been doing that since the 60s. And again, that's a federally mandated, we're not doing it. It's the right thing to do, but we're also mandated to make sure that we separate our sewer system from our storm lines and maintain both under those obligations that we have. So,
Bill, could you show that comparison chart? Bill? Well, okay. Brian was supposed to upload that, but what I've done here and before you, and it's on the website, I can provide this to residents. It identifies our fee, which is on the lower third, the left of that fee at $3.77. You can see about 3/4 of the communities statewide are higher than us. I think we tried to collect a fee that we felt was reasonable, that would provide us those funds to do some of those projects. And if you compare, you know, at $3.77, the high one, I'm $26 a month. Now that's Logansport. I'm not sure what that includes. Most of the fees around us are anywhere from $6 to $8 per month. So we are well within, we're actually under. Brownsburg is $5. I'm trying to read that. Lafayette's $5. Connorsville's $5.15. So that's on our website if anyone is interested in looking at that. So with that, if you guys have any other questions, if not, then we can go ahead and open the public hearing. The only thing we ask is that you identify yourself by name and address, and then address the board with your comments or questions. This is being recorded, so you may not see us writing a bunch of notes, but it is being recorded and will be kept. So with that, Vince, as the president, if you want to open the public hearing.
It is 5:16 currently. I want to go ahead and open the public hearing portion of our meeting tonight. Like Grant said, I welcome everybody to, if you come up one at a time and just let us know your thoughts. I'd appreciate it.
Hi, I'm Cynthia Terry.
Hi.
I live at 1833 Winton. You were saying the other places but Speedway's landlocked. We're not getting any more people, so they can raise more revenue by getting more houses. So, you know, and I'm obviously a senior citizen. I'm on a fixed income, and this really does matter.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Would anybody else?
Hey, everybody. My name is Dakota Faulkner. I live at 1114 Winton Avenue. First, I want to thank you all for giving of your time and energy to be doing this important work. It's work that often goes unpraised, so I appreciate that, as well as the street department, too. I think my concern is not that we don't need these infrastructure improvements. I'm very sure that we do. I would argue that this has been a neglected item, and decisions have been made by the board in previous years that have led us here, including focusing on developing the city too much, the town too much, and encouraging more and more pavement to be paved, more and more buildings to be built that reduce the green space that would take care of a lot of these issues. If we had more arable land that would take the water into the ground, it would not be overwhelming our system, including the opening of a proposal for development of the 5 acres off of the corner of Cunningham. Again, yet again, inviting development rather than preserving the few green spaces that this town has led us to this point. So I'll just say that that's not the commission's responsibility. I'm not putting that all on you. I do share a lot of town residents' concern that even though it's $36, $40 a year for the average resident, for the folks on fixed incomes, that seems like money that could easily be paid by, I think 100% of this project could be funded by the businesses you've named, not just 70%. They're the ones that are causing the issues of overwhelming our storm system, so they should pick up all of the tab of paying for it. Granted, my roof in Speedway, my 725-foot square roof, does take up some of it, but I also have a yard on both sides, and I make choices that help our groundwater, our ground, to take care of that rainwater. The biggest person that's using the most pavement is the track, obviously, as you've named. And so considering the billions of dollars that that company takes in annually, this would be a drop in the bucket to meet all of the town's needs in terms of completely gutting and renovating all of our stormwater. So I think that while having the scale for businesses that will pay more than the average resident is laudable, I don't know that the town resident should have to pay any of the money, considering that they're not the ones that are perpetuating the issues with the stormwater system. And you mentioned the dry run. I know that Ann and Chuck Mitchell, who are former residents of Speedway, greatly opposed that infrastructure change because it has not really done the job that it promised. I mean, it mitigates the issues of stormwater, but again, from an environmental management standpoint, it was not the greenest of endeavors that this town could have undertaken. And considering that, you know, more and more concrete and more pipes are only perpetuating the issue, which is that the town could take care of this with preserving more and more green spaces and encouraging less development. So that would be what I offer the commission.
Great, thank you.
Can you see me? I'm Linda Rasmussen. I live at 5937 Nash Lane. Am I recalling correctly that there was a water increase last year?
There was a stormwater and water increase in 2022, but that's for stormwater, and not stormwater, it's for wastewater and water projects.
Okay, how time flies.
Yeah.
So if this proposal goes through to raise the water rates, my question is, do we assume that if or when the LEAP project goes through, will we anticipate another raise in our water for cleaning the waste that's disposed?
You're talking about the Lebanon project?
Right.
So currently we're having conversations with citizens trying to get all the correct information, because I think there's been a little misinformation out there.
Okay.
We don't anticipate any projects from the town of Speedway needing to be done for that.
And cleaning the wastewater will not be necessary? I mean, an increase in the way
So they're
that's-
taking about 25 million gallons, or proposing over, I think it's a 5-year period, taking about 25 million gallons per day. I think it holds 5.9 billion gallons or some number like that. I'm still trying to verify all of that. They're going to pipe back a portion of that wastewater to the estuary to replace that water over time. But it's not going to affect our projects. We have an agreement with them where a certain amount has to come over that dam, and we use that. That's a majority of our water comes from. Mm-hmm. We have wells, but that's a sustainable source, whereas wells, as Central Indiana develops and more people tap it, becomes more and more difficult to get water.
Okay.
But we don't anticipate any project coming for the town of Speedway for
Or an
that.
increase because that water needs to be cleaned?
Not for us.
So it's not going to affect our water, basically?
I'm not a biologist. I haven't got all the information, but I know they have what's called a National Pollution Discharge Permit, NPD ES, that requires them, just like we do. We have it for our wastewater plant. We dump into Little Eagle Creek on the south side. They have a permit that has standards. IDEM regulates that, and they'll have to meet those standards. We have monthly tests. Daily. We test daily. I know they do surprise tests. My guess is that IDEM will do that as well for this project. My other understanding of the project is it's about 3 to 5 years out. There's some capital improvements that need to be done. Once again, I'm trying to run that information down, and then the town will put out some information so residents understand that. Yeah. This fee has nothing to do with that. We've been talking about this fee. The first time that we brought this to the council was in 2022. The agreement with Christopher B. Burke was approved in 2023, completed in 24. We started talking about the fee in 25.
Yeah.
So it is not related to that project.
Yeah, I wasn't concerned about this fee as much as I was wondering if we would anticipate another increase due to the project.
What citizens will charge for water, but we don't buy water from citizens. So
Okay.
We provide our own water. We have ability to connect or interconnect in with them, but we have enough water for our needs because we are not growing, meaning we're not adding 100 or 200 homes annually.
Okay. Can you make it taste better?
We
got the wrong guy here for
We
that
have
one.
tried a couple different things. It is a lot dependent on what happens to the reservoir, and as it turns over every spring, that biology creates that musty flavor. Yeah,
Okay, thank you
I
for your
get it.
time.
Thank you.
It was good to hear it laugh. I'm Pam Risley, 1663 DeSoto Lane, and thanks to you guys for, just like Dakota said, it takes a lot of time, and sometimes you don't want to leave home once you get there. This is a little bit different approach to it. There are lots of ways to deal with pavement that are not impermeable. I don't know what they all are, but I've seen those grids of concrete that you plant grass in. And there are kinds of, there are ground covers that don't necessarily need mowing or anything else. And I would encourage all of you to look at other options like that to encourage, especially businesses, really, the city and businesses to use other kinds of options rather than paving. And then there's things that may seem like pretty far out, but green roofs. There are lots of things we could do in the future that would make a huge difference for us and for the money and for the environment. Thank you.
Yeah, good point.
I will mention, we've actually done a couple of green infrastructure projects over the past decade. The biggest one, if you'll notice on Main Street, there are rain gardens. We have rain gardens from Crawfordsville south to 10th Street. They deal with water in a totally different way than is traditionally done. We've also trying to think, Rob, the names of the streets.
Old Speedway's got pervious concrete along the curb side.
Yep. So we did a strip of pervious pavement on, I can't remember how many roads it
We
was.
did from 15th Street south. Actually, we even did some on 10th Street. Problem is with that, within Indiana, is that it starts to fail with salt. It starts to deteriorate, and you have big holes in it, and you have to actually fill that with asphalt. Because any other, let's say, epoxy or whatever, you're going to fill the holes either way. So but it has been done. We've got rain gardens in Old Speedway by the school. By junior high, we did
Yep.
that.
Kind of on the,
All that was for got a lower interest rate on the project for doing all the greenway work.
and I also think we got grants partly because of some of that.
So,
We didn't pay for the entire cost.
right.
But that's an example of a couple things that we have done. I think maintaining dry run ditch is our kind of near-term plan to try to develop more native species and try to help it to absorb more water and deal with that water more effectively. I know one of the big expenses that's in this capital plan is the removal of, 15 or 20 trees that have grown too close to the creek. We need to get that out of it's not a creek, it's a ditch. I'm sorry. I removed some of those trees. It's not a clear cutting, but there are certain trees that are too close. Those are examples of green things that we are going to try to do to help deal with that.
I think that too, the erosion problem along the backside between the residents and the creek itself, and is whatever we can do in the parking lots. And I appreciate IMS's work of keeping gravel lots instead of paving them.
That helps a great deal.
Yeah,
Although those
yeah.
are still impervious, they're a little less impervious than asphalt or concrete.
Right.
They have a
And
different.
so it makes a big difference in relationship and parking. It might be a little messy if it rains out there pulling cars out. We experience that every year. But then again, it really does help reduce that transfer of the water right into our ditches and streams and rivers eventually down the way. So anybody else would like to speak tonight? Feel free to come up.
And after the meeting, I've got a council
Yeah.
meeting at 6. But if you have questions, I'm always willing to sit down and talk or provide that information as much as I can. So at this point, if we have
yeah.
no other comment,
It's 5:30, and I'll go ahead and close the hearing. And I really appreciate the comments that were presented tonight, and it reflects a lot of things that have discussed over the last couple of years, and just trying to understand how do we get our arms around the direct cost and indirect cost of the project, and also, how do we protect the homes, with those basement flooding and that situation that occurred on north of Crawfordsville Road, Gerard. I think we lost a couple basements that caved in. So I think it's important that we take all of this under consideration, and as we look forward. Okay, Grant?
so at this point, it would be appropriate for the board to consider resolution number 2026-01 of the Speedway Storm Management Board that in essence makes a recommendation to the authority of the council who has to adopt an ordinance to approve the fee. So we have several whereas clauses there that talk about financing projects and doing projects. But I'll read now therefore be it resolved by the Stormwater Management Board of the Town of Speedway, Indiana as follows. Section 1, the board finds that the establishment of the user fees in the ordinance are the minimum amount necessary for their operation and maintenance of the town's stormwater system, and that is that $3.77, the administrative fee, and then the residential ERU equivalent, and then there's also a paragraph about businesses, which calculates there, which is a lot more than $3.77. Section 2, the board approves the establishment of the user fees in the ordinance and recommends final approval of the ordinance by the town council. So at this point, it would be appropriate for someone to make a motion, have that motion seconded, any discussion after the motion, and then a vote, Vince, of that board. I printed off a copy, but it didn't print the signature page. I may ask for one of you to use because I think your guys's has double sides. Correct? That one in your right hand, Vince. Flip that over. It doesn't have? No. Well, I will get a copy and
I can draw a
sign
line.
that. Okay. I'm sorry, I don't know what happened. So go ahead and proceed and.
Okay.
I'll make a motion for approval of the resolution by the board. Resolution 2026-01.
I'll second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. I'd like to go ahead and
If there's any
discussion. Yeah, open it up for discussion in relationship.
questions.
Do you have any questions or concerns on anything?
No.
Anything for Christopher Burke, or it's?
No.
The only other comment I want to have is I do appreciate, we met, I think it was 6 times on this over the past 18 months. Appreciated your guys' diligence in reading the information we sent you, thinking about it, trying to understand the issue. I also appreciate staff, both Rob and Brad, who worked with me to identify the capital improvements that were necessary, and then the help of Christopher B. Burke. And they're still on contract to help us kind of finalize this, and that's why they're here tonight.
Okay.
But I wanted to thank them, and I know that the council has taken this very seriously. If you remember, we had discussed a fee that was higher. I do
Right.
think that is important to be pointed out. It was about $1 and something higher. I know the council had some discussions, asked us to look at some other things, which then led to that fee being lowered. So with that, if you guys wish to vote on this, now would be the appropriate time.
Okay, I'll go ahead and, so I get a motion and a second, so I'm going to call for a vote. All those in favor of Resolution 2026-01, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries 3-0.
I will go upstairs and get the copy so that you
Okay.
can sign. I apologize for that. So this resolution, I will present that to the council this evening. While they are not required to hold a public hearing, they have asked me to put a public hearing on the agenda for this evening.
Okay?
They will also take public comment at the 7 o'clock
Yeah.
meeting. So with
And-
that,
Anybody in the audience who would like to ask Christopher Burke any detailed information in relationship to the study or what information that we had, feel free to ask him. And from that standpoint, that's all I have.
go ahead and
I'm going to go ahead and close this meeting at 5:35. And thank you for all for attending.